Hello everyone, welcome back to our series of how to create a community airport in Tower Simulator 3. In this episode, I will go over how to import a 3D tower model into Unity and move your tower position over it. I like to use this 3D model I have found on Sketchfab. It is free and it looks pretty realistic. So I'll go ahead and download this. It is often or almost always the best to use the FBX format when you're importing 3D models into Unity. So we'll download this. Wait for the download to finish. Now, if we go into our download folder, we can see that in here there are two folders. Folder called source and another folder called textures. And the source contains the FBX and the textures contains the material. So if we grab these two folders, extract it, and drag it into Unity. Wait for it to import. Now, if we go into the source folder and just grab this FBX out and put it in our scene, you can see that it is now in the middle of our scene, and that has been successfully imported with the material already on it. So now what you have to do is relocate this to where you want this. And for this airport, it is supposed to be somewhere in this area, I believe. And we're just gonna move this over here and rotate this, make it different rotation. And for this airport, the tower is relatively short, so it doesn't stand up this tall from the ground. And what you can do is basically just move this tower beneath the ground if you want. Or the other way of doing this is to grab like this, uh, this, uh, this bit where it's just like, you want to touch the observation deck and where people sit because that will just mess up the entire scale of the 3D model. So you only want to grab the actual tower, like this up and down part, and shrink that, make that shorter. And let's see. Now if we move this down and move, yeah, yeah, move this entire thing further down and just move the tower a bit. Okay, I want to flip the tower a bit, move that up, and we can also see we can move whatever these fences are up. These. Okay. Now that looks pretty nice. That is no longer sitting that tall. And there, and this is looking realistic. And now what you have to do is just get the tower position over this tower. So in the game, the player will spawn over the tower here in the room, and if when they go out, they can see the tower model beneath where they're sitting. So the tower position, you can just also grab that and move it above the tower. You can get a good top-down view to see where it is. That is pretty nice. And let's get a side view now to move it above the tower. That should be a pretty good height. And now, if you just export the asset file, and when you load in the game, it should be sitting right above the top of this tower, and that will look much better than an orange stick or whatever you might have in your original OS import. Thanks for watching, and that is it for this video, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Hi everyone, Punchman here. I'll show you how to import props that don't come in FBX or need materials to be rebuilt. Here's a model of a ground power unit that I found. You go to download and as you can see they don't have an FBX, they have an OBJ, so many things will come like this. Or even if they come as FBXs, you might get pink textures because the shader needs to be adjusted. So here we'll go ahead and download this OBJ, and I've gone ahead and done that already. In our Unity and our models and props folder here, I made a folder called GPU, and this is what we got from there. So in source, we've got our OBJ file, and in texture, we've got a PNG. So let's go ahead and bring this in. So just drag it into our scene, see if it's the right size. Maybe, let's bring it up a little. Maybe needs to be a little bit bigger. Let's try maybe double the size. That looks right, I think, proportionally. So that might be something you have to adjust here. Let's rotate it. I don't love this floating plug. Now, if I decide to keep this model, maybe that's something that will just edit out in Blender. But here, as you can see, it'll either be pink or it'll be white with no texture. So let's go ahead and add our texture in. So in order to do that, we're going to create a new material. We're going to go to create material. Let's call it GPU. And then the important thing that you need is to give it the base, which is the actual texture, and then the normal map gives it like the bumpiness, so to speak, like the texture of it. So here we don't have the normal map, so in our GPU material, we're going to just go ahead and drag this to our base map. Now on our object, we are going to just take our material here and drag it onto our object. And just like that, we've added the texture to our ground power unit, and now it's ready to do what it's got to do. Now, one thing to note is as you add props in, you can search the internet. There's a lot of props out there and things that you can download or pay for. As you start doing this, just realize the more things you add, the more rendering it is and vertices it is for a GPU to render. And so then, if you're really starting to instance more than like, let's say 10 of these things in your map, you should really consider adding LODs. And so that's something we'll cover in like a more advanced video for 3D airport design, is how to take objects like this and create LODs so that when you zoom out, that object is no longer visible. So I think I have some examples here, like this fuel truck, for example. This is an extreme example, but if I back out, that object is no longer there, so the load on the GPU to render that doesn't appear until you zoom in enough where that object wants to be visible. So this is something that you're going to want to explore if you're going to start using more models like this that you're going to want to use in multiple places. For example, I think in Memphis we have like a lot of these, right? So you can imagine like this would be a lot of rendering load, but if I back out, they'll disappear. And so now the GPU is not rendering these objects, and when I zoom in, now they're being rendered, and if I zoom in more, you'll see more and more objects being rendered here. So that's something to consider when you get into more advanced 3D airport building and looking to spawn a lot of props. But here I just wanted to cover how to go ahead and import props that you can use to build out your airport. One more thing that I have to show you is how to specify your prop, this GPU unit that we added, for example, as a decor object. So decor objects is a setting in TS3 that a player can use in their graphics settings to decide how much of these decor objects to spawn or not. So by adding these objects by specifying them as a decor object, you can tell the engine, hey, this is not a necessary thing to spawn, and so players that have really high quality GPUs, they can have all their decor objects turned on, but players that don't can reduce or turn off decor objects and still get good FPS. So to specify that, we go to add component here. So we select our GPU, we go to add component, and we pick detail container. So you just search for detail container, and then you click it and you add it, and that's all you have to do. And now the game has, the engine will recognize this object as a decor object. That's all I've got for you in this tutorial. Kroot showed you how to get FBX models from various websites and spawn them in as objects such as your tower. We reviewed how to set your tower position and also how to import props and objects that may be in other formats and need texture rebuilding. And we went over how to set them as decor objects. That's all we've got for you in this video. We'll see you in the next one.